So what does this dream in chapter 4 communicate to Nebuchadnezzar? Well, Daniel tells Nebuchadnezzar that the dream is representing Nebuchadnezzar. The tree is. It is you, O king, who have grown and become strong. But of course, it's not just Nebuchadnezzar the man, but rather his dominion that reaches to the ends of the earth. In other words, it's Nebuchadnezzar, but it's Babylonian Nebuchadnezzar. It's the reign and rule and dominion of Babylon underneath Nebuchadnezzar. And of course, the image is a positive one, that Nebuchadnezzar provides food and beauty and shelter, resources, dwellings, and so on, to many thousands of people who otherwise would be living nomadically in a desert. So this is, in one sense, it's a massive compliment to Nebuchadnezzar. But then the reason it's depicted as a tree is as a warning, because a tree can be chopped down. And here we're told that this tree is going to be chopped down. But actually, it's a warning, not an inevitability. So why would the tree be chopped down? Why would this Nebuchadnezzar, by decree from the Most High, be driven from among men? And the answer, of course, is because Nebuchadnezzar was in danger, in the midst of all his greatness, of assuming that he himself, that Nebuchadnezzar, was the ultimate source of his own greatness and of the greatness of Babylon. But you see, as we learned last time, when you're thinking of a tree is not something that man built. A tree ultimately finds its source of life, the source of its greatness, of its beauty, and so on, is rooted in the grounding, in the soil of God. So that however great Babylon was, that greatness could not be attributed merely to Nebuchadnezzar, to one single man. After all, was it Nebuchadnezzar's architectural expertise that could produce the Hanging Gardens of Babylon? Was it Nebuchadnezzar's horticultural expertise and skill that cultivated and kept the garden? Was it Nebuchadnezzar's expertise that designed the blueprints and then could carve and transpose and construct the walls and the buildings of Babylon? Of course not. Nebuchadnezzar was not, you could not say that all of Babylon's greatness derived from the one source of Nebuchadnezzar. In fact, Nebuchadnezzar couldn't even really have had alone, on his own, the wisdom and the ability to manage such an empire. It took counselors and so on. There was all that to say there was just a massive support network underneath Nebuchadnezzar, which he had no control over. It's not as though he went out individually and single-handedly recruited everybody who was involved in his kingdom. Sure, Nebuchadnezzar, of course, played a huge role in making Babylon great, and God commended him for it. But he wasn't the ultimate source. If there's going to be an empire as great as Babylon, it would never exist on this planet were not God the source of it. And this is the warning to Nebuchadnezzar, that he must acknowledge God as the ultimate source of the glory and of the greatness of Babylon. And if he doesn't do that, then God will chop down the tree. Now, he'll leave the stump, because a stump can re-sprout. But the stump will be bound with bronze and iron so that it cannot re-sprout naturally, but will have to wait to be restored until God's divine hand is lifted, the hand of his discipline is lifted, and will allow the stump to be restored into a living thing again, because sprouts can kind of annoyingly sometimes, you cut a tree down and the stump keeps generating sprouts. It can be a bit of an annoyance if you don't just grind the stump down. But in this case, it's cause for hope should Nebuchadnezzar not acknowledge God as the source. Now, how is he going to acknowledge God as the source? He's got two things to do. Number one, he's to practice justice or righteousness in his kingdom and to show mercy to the oppressed. That is to say, that of all the citizens and people within his empire, particularly within his city, that he needs to show compassion and recognize their part in making and adding to and enhancing his own greatness. He wouldn't be great were it not for them. So he has to show mercy to the poor, to the oppressed, to the rabble, those at the lower end of his society, and also to pursue true justice, to know that he's accountable to God for the gift of this kingdom that he's been put in charge of. All right? So that leads us now to the final question, which is, of course, Nebuchadnezzar is going to respond now to this vision. How is he going to respond? What exactly happens? When does it happen? Where does it happen? And so on. So that's get your shovels out and start digging and look at how to answer those questions. And we'll see you next time.